Welcome back to the channel. This is another vid on how to generate meaningful amounts of sulforaphane. You've all heard of blanching broccoli sprouts for 10 minutes at 70 degrees centigrade or 158 Fahrenheit. This is touted as increasing the amount of sulforaphane by a factor of 3.5. Sounds pretty impressive. Unfortunately, 3.5 times not much still results in very little. The purpose of this blanching was to denature, i.e. break down the epithiospecific proteins in the sprouts while not destroying the myrosinase. That's a difficult trick. The problem is that it does destroy some of those bad proteins, but not enough. The reality is that if you do not denature all the epithiospecific proteins in the sprouts, then the chemical process is just going to be producing mostly nitriles, which are natural pesticides and not very good for you. Our end goal is to convert all the glucoraphanin in the sprout into sulforaphane with no nitriles being generated. So what I'm going to demonstrate to you is a process that eliminates nearly all the epithiospecific proteins, which will result in almost 100% of the glucoraphanin being converted into sulforaphane with no nitriles. I will show you how to grow the sprouts and then how to convert them into sulforaphane. Let's go over the equipment that you're going to need. One, a high-speed blender. You can buy it from Walmart for 15 bucks. Magnetic stirrer with heating pad and stirrer element. Again, you can buy it from Walmart, model SH2 for $52. Food thermometer, again from Walmart for about 8 bucks. A 500 milliliter Pyrex beaker, again from Walmart for 9 bucks. A teaspoon measuring spoon, 1/8 teaspoon measuring spoon, mustard powder, baking soda, broccoli seeds, a timer, a spray bottle with water. You can buy all of this for about 75 bucks. I'm going to be using a process developed by Dr. Fahey with some modifications. Fahey's process was specifically designed to generate clinical grade levels of sulforaphane. All we want to do is generate something that's ingestible. We can eat the sprout hulls and pulp along with the sulforaphane with no problems. This significantly simplifies our process. The first step in the process is to germinate broccoli seeds for 48 hours. We will submerge 1 teaspoon of broccoli seeds in water for the first 12 hours and then rinse them every 12 hours until 48 hours. We'll use a 1/2 cup canning glass jar with a plastic screen mesh cap salvaged from screen door material. You will need 2 of these canning jars for a 24-hour rotation sequence. At 48 hours, you are ready to blanch the sprouts. Pour 150 milliliters of water into a Pyrex 500 milliliter beaker. You will bring the water to a mild boil on your stove and then pour the sprouts into the boiling water for 3 minutes. This blanching will denature the epithiospecific proteins and unfortunately also the myrosinase. After 3 minutes, take the beaker off the flame and cool the contents to room temperature as a minimum less than 110 Fahrenheit. Pour the contents of the beaker into a blender jar. Add 1/8 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/8 teaspoon of mustard powder. In order to ensure the mustard powder contains myrosinase, just lightly dip the tip of your wet finger into the mustard powder and place it on your tongue. It should burn. Now blend the contents to homogenize the sprouts. It should not take very long, maybe 10 to 15 seconds. The purpose of this is to rupture all the vacuums of glucoraphanin in the sprouts and get them into the water solution. At this time, smell the contents for reference. They should only have a very mild odor. Pour the blender contents back into the beaker. Place a stir bar in the beaker. Place the beaker on your magnetic stirrer, set on mild stir, and turn the heater to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Set your timer, stir for 30 minutes. Remove the stir bar from the beaker contents with a steel rod when you're done. The results are going to smell badly. This is probably the sulforaphane and lots of it. Okay, legal disclaimer. This is an experimental process. I'm not recommending anyone ingest this end product. Long-term effects of regularly ingesting sulforaphane are unknown. Safe dosage levels of sulforaphane are unknown. Proceed with extreme caution. So let's see this process in action. Okay, here we are in the kitchen. Here's our high-speed blender. Here's our magnetic stir with a heating element. Here's our blender bowl. Here's a 500 milliliter beaker with 150 millimeters of water in it. We've got our broccoli seeds with a 1 teaspoon measuring spoon. We've got our Coleman's mustard powder. We've got some baking soda, excuse me, and 1/8 teaspoon measurer. We've got our magnetic stir, and we have an empty 1/2 cup canning jar, and we've got 24-hour-old sprouts, and we have 48-hour-old sprouts. And so what we're going to do is we're going to harvest these 48-hour sprouts. I'm going to take the lid off here and set it to the side. And this one's ready for a rinse, and we're just going to go over here and we're just going to put some water in it, rinse it. And this will be ready for another rinse within 12 hours. So we're going to take 1 teaspoon of seeds, put them in the canning jar. Now this canning leaf, this just got plastic mesh right out of your old screen door. Works really great, highly recommended. So we're going to just put the cap back on this thing, go back over to, fill it full of water. We're going to rinse it. Once, and then I'm just going to fill up about halfway full of water, and we'll let that sit in that condition for 12 hours. Okay, so we have one of the things I forgot to bring out here is we need a spray bottle. They really don't need it, and a screwdriver that we're going to use to pick up the stirring element when we're done. Okay, so I'm going to get the water boiling in this beaker quickly in a put it into a microwave oven at first. Set it for 2 minutes. Just get the seeds ready here while we're waiting. We're going to be putting it on the stove to heat it in just a minute. You don't have to heat it up in the microwave. It's just something I do because it heats up a little bit faster by doing that than on the stove. And that's right at boiling. We're just going to put it on the stove. I'm going to bring the flame up and bring it to a full mild boil. going to do a quenching bath here. I'm just going to get it ready. You don't have to do this, but it's what I do. Okay, water's starting to boil right now. So we're going to come in and put in these 48-hour sprouts. They just look like swollen seeds, and some of them started to erupt. And what I'm going to do now is set a 3-minute timer. Okay, we're going to let it boil there for 3 minutes. Bring the heat down a little bit. So you don't want a real heavy boil. You just want a kind of a mild boil. And the whole purpose of this is to denature all the proteins in those sprouts. So the only thing we're going to have left is the sulforaphane and the vacuoles. Okay, then we'll take the flame off. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quench this. It's a little hot, so I'm going to just pick it up with a rag. And I'm going to put it in this cooling bath. And we're just going to let it come down to close to room temperature. I'm going to start warming up the stirrer plate at this time. And you have to play with this to figure out what setting is going to give you 110 degrees Fahrenheit for what. Okay, I pretty well cooled that down to room temperature, and what we're going to do now is pour the contents of the beaker into my blending container. As you can see, couldn't quite get everything out, so I'm going to use the spray bottle to get all the contents. Now, do not want to clean that beaker at this time, just set it aside. And we'll then add 1/8 teaspoon of baking soda. And that should bring our pH way up above at least an 8. And then we're going to take our Coleman's mustard powder. And then we're going to just use 1/8 teaspoon. Throw that in. Okay. I'm going to screw the top on. Now, one of the things you got to watch out for here, trial and error. This is still kind of warm, and as it's in there, because the solution is warm, it has a tendency to heat up the air, which pressurizes this thing, which will cause it to leak right around the seal when you go to blend this. So I always make sure I let off do this a couple times to make sure that I'm not going to be pressurizing that. Okay, so I think we're there right now. Tighten it down good and tight. Now, what this is going to do, this is going to homogenize these sprouts and break all the vacuums that contain the glucoraphanin and put that glucoraphanin into solution. So that's what we're trying to do here. Okay, we've got a pretty good stir. You can see the contents looks like milk with a froth on top. And what we're going to do now is we're going to pour the contents of this back into the beaker. And I want to salvage as much of this material as I can, so I'm just going to recover that. Pour the contents in. And again, it leaves a lot in there, so we're just going to spray it down, put it back into solution so we can get most of it out. And still got a little bit left in there. And you can see we got it all out of there. I'm going to spray down the sides here. Anything that gets spilled on the side, still got a little left there, get that off of there. Okay, so we're going to take the stirring element, we're going to drop it right in the center. We're going to put it on the stir, and we're going to start stirring it. And you can see it's stirring quite well. And we're going to set the timer now for 30 minutes. So we'll wait 30 minutes to come back and see what happens. Okay, there's our 30 minutes. I'm going to turn off the stir. I'll take our contents and I'm going to pour them into my breakfast concoction. I'm going to take the remove that. I've got some residual here in the beaker, so I'm again going to squirt it down. I want to get all this sulforaphane I can. And there you have it.